Okay, so now I'm at electrical. I'm going to start on this. Last week when I had the power cable onto here and turned the key on, I had no power going anywhere. So I wasn't getting power from the battery to the fuse panel. So you can see the solenoid here is all corroded and rusted all up. So I'm going to probably loosen these up, clean them up, take them off. And then you can see this is the trigger switch here, this one. This yellow wire goes to the ignition. And then this main power one, this fat red one right in here, comes right off of the battery terminal right there. You can see my finger, that one, it's a heavier gauge power one. That one goes right down here and goes right into the bottom of the, I'm trying to twist this around so you can see better, but it goes right into the bottom of the fuse panel, right to this screw here, so that should be hot. So I'm going to hook a battery up to it, see if I got power here, and if not, then I've got a dirty connection up in here or bad connection. So let's do that next. Okay, I disconnected the CDI box. I disconnected the solenoid because the terminals are so corroded on there, and I just hooked up the battery right to the fuse panel like this. So I got power. I got ground going to I got it grounded to the frame, my test light. I got power going to the fuse block. This is the main power source. It just says power source. Power on both sides. Power on the main. I got the ignition switch turned on, and I got no power coming up here. So when I turn the ignition switch on, this main fuse runs power up to the switch, and when you turn it on, I should have power here at the ignition, signal lights, headlights, and I've got nothing there. So okay. So I disconnected the ignition switch right here, just unplugs. See if I got power coming up to here. Nothing. Yeah, I got power here. Let me spray some cleaner in here, plug it back in, and see if I can get it to work. So I got power going to the ignition switch, but nothing coming out of the ignition switch. I think. I do have another ignition switch on the other bike I could maybe swap out. It's in there, but not very good. Let's see if I got power coming out of there now. So the red one's the hot one. It's a real loose fit in there. I got the switch turned on. I think I got a bad ignition switch here. I'm not getting any. Nothing in there. I could try jumping power from here to there. Let me try that. Okay, I got a little piece of metal in here. It's going to jump it from the hot over to one of these holes here. There we go, we got power there. So we're just bypassing the switch, and yeah, so we got a bad ignition switch. And I've got I put an ignition switch in the other bike there with the keys, so I know I've got a good switch over there. I'll check the connections in the bottom of this unless they're all corroded or something or all screwed up. 2 Allen heads. Pretty sure when I bought that other bike last year that I bought an ignition switch, maybe with the fuel cap or something, but I remember changing that ignition switch. Holy mother! Yeah, the terminals in here look all right, like they look nice and clean, but the contacts inside might be junk. I can put my meter on here and check that. Yeah, pretty sure I can just check that. So that should be on. Let me just see here. Okay, this one here should be the hot going in. I'm getting power, I'm getting continuity from here to this terminal. I can't remember if that was the, I'll mark that like that. Let me check the manual. All right. Okay, so I took the ignition switch out of the other one, the 83. This one's an 82, and it's a 6-pin connector. So that's not going to work. So I pulled the connector out of this one, out of the 4-pin connector, and I'm going to see if I can pop it apart. That's not good. See if it's corroded in there or what the deal is. I'm hoping it comes apart. Kind of looks like it does. She looks pretty gummed up in here. How's a spider web get inside there? Like, come on. This one looks kind of dirty here, corroded up a little bit. I think it's working. If it works, I got to put a little bit of epoxy in that little hole there where I broke it, but it was just really gooped up. Let's see what it does now. Be a miracle. Oh, I got the battery disconnected. Nope. Oh, let me make sure I got the power of the battery here. Yeah, do there. Power there. Geez, it looked like it was working there. Back to the drawing board. I'm just sanding down these terminals a little bit. Clean them up. Something's not making contact. Clean these ones up. off. I think that's on. Let's see. Try that. Okay, I got that ignition switch cleaned up. I got turned to the on position. I got my battery hooked up, and so this is my power source. This is my main. Now I got the key switch turned on for ignition. I got power there, signals, headlight. Now I'm not getting my my dash lights on right now because there's something. So the ignition switch gets the power back to here to liven up these fuses, which in turn goes back up to the horn and dash lights or something. So I've got a bad connection there somewhere. New day, new beginning. I just put the ignition switch back in there, bolted it back in, and what I'm going to do is hook everything back up, put the CDI box back up. I might even cut the regulator wire off and solder a new one off the other bike. Get everything hooked up the way it should be as best I can, except for this harness that would go to the fairing. And I'll see what I got to do to bypass that, or make an adapter so I can run this up to the headlight and signal lights. Might just take the signal lights off altogether, I'm not sure. I'll go look at the other bike. In Canada, you don't need signal lights. If you have signal lights on the bike, they have to work. If you don't have them on the bike, you know, they don't have to work or don't have to be there. You just use your hand signals. It's obviously safer to have them on there, but a lot of guys like to streamline their bikes and take them off. But what I'm just doing now, you can see all the wires down on the ground here. That's the aerial, and there's a bunch of wires running to a radio. I guess there was a stereo in the fairing. And so I'm just pulling out all that crap. Like there's a inline fuse in here for it, and a bunch of miscellaneous wires. So I'm just trying to clean up all the stuff that's not necessary. And I'll get everything hooked back up and see what happens then. I noticed in my video yesterday, I didn't see it before, but the screw's missing out of here. Hopefully it's not broken off, but I got lots in the other bike, so I'll take the best ones and put them in this one. And then this wire, this ignition wire, was it that one or the other one? Yeah, this one here, it's all taped up in here, so I'll take the best ones of the two bikes and make one bike. Okay, so right now I'm going to try to get everything hooked back up the way it should be, then turn the ignition switch on and see if I can trace where the break in the wire is, somewhere in here. So the ignition switch is doing its job. I'm turning it to the on position, and that's lighting up the fuse panel. It's lighting up these fuses, and then from here the power should go back up. One to the ignition, one to the gauges and headlights and tail light, horn, and yeah, headlight and tail light and signals. There's a different fuse on there. Okay, that's where I'm at right now. Let me just hook a few things up here. I'm going to change this starter switch at the same time too. May as well do that now. I went outside and took one off of the other bike outside. Hopefully it's got the same amount of pin connector on it. That way I don't have to hot wire it, I can just push the ignition button to see if it's going to fire up. My wire cutters. I'm just cutting these off. It would be nice to reuse them, but they're so brittle. They get so old and brittle. These are original Suzuki ones, but end up breaking them, getting them off. Okay. Right down in between the coils. There's a plug in it here. Oh, get that out. Here's the other one I took out. Yeah, that video there yesterday, I had an AC/DC song playing in the background, and I don't mind playing copyright songs because I'm not getting paid. But AC/DC, this is all melted in there. DC doesn't allow it. Oh man, looks like this is melted from the heat in there. Holy moly. So they shut down that video worldwide, so I had to edit it again today, and yeah, this is all kind of melted in there. Let's see if I can break it loose a little bit. Oh, crap. Try to squeak a little bit of that oil in there. Yeah, I'm gonna break it. Oh. Worst case scenario, I can cut the wires out of the other harness and solder them all in, because this is melted right onto it. Christmas. That's on there good. I might have to do that. See where it's all like shrunk up and melted? Oh, finally got that out of there. Yeah, I think I'll go outside and check on the other one, and probably going to have to pull this wiring harness out, cut that, and solder in some new wires. Soldering the new end off the other one. I'm going to go check it out. I just went and cut the pigtail off the old bike there. The harness is all ripped apart on that bike, so it was just hanging out there. And here's the electric switch on this one. Everything works on this switch. The other one's all broken. So that fits right in there. I'll greased up a little bit. And I'll have to solder all these in, one at a time. So I think what I'll do is I'll route this back in there first and have it hanging out and solder this in tomorrow. I'm going to solder these all back on here. It's going to be a little bit longer. Maybe that'll get it away from the heat too, from the engine. So I got a bunch of these colored heat shrinks here from Princess Auto, and maybe I can match some of the colors up too a little bit. That might help. Get a yellow one, some orange ones. Only need to be about 1 inch long. I left this one orange and white one on there just for orientation, because there's, and I don't, maybe it doesn't matter, but there's 2 orange and white ones on here, so I'm going to solder it on the exact same way I took it off. This is orange with a green tracer. Looks like that one there. What I do is I like to twist each around each other. There's all different ways of doing it, and then I make it as tight as possible. So here's that one. Here's the orange with the white tracer. Nope, not that one. That one there. Orange with a white tracer, this one here. Phone rang. Okay, where did I put the solder? I got those all wired together. Don't like any of these little strands sticking out. I don't pre-wind the wires individually before I twist them together, because then it's too hard. If you leave them soft, then they kind of, like in feathery, then they kind of, they'll just blend right into each other when you twist them. Went to a motorcycle swap meet in Alvinston yesterday, thinking that maybe I'll find a slip-on for this thing, or maybe some Norton parts. No, it was all Harley. 99.9% Harley parts and a couple dirt bike parts. And went with my buddy. I'm wearing this black coat, and he's wearing his black jacket, and everybody there was wearing black leather. Turned my back for a second, I couldn't find him. And it's kind of funny. Everybody in there was wearing a black leather jacket, and there was a lot of colors worn too. There were some angels there. I think it was more of a get-together than anything. I don't think anybody was really selling much. Although I did buy a couple posters. And Alvinston is just a little town. I don't know if there's even 1,000 people. 500, maybe 1,000. I don't think there's 1,000 people there. No, 500-600. I used to play their hockey though. They got a nice hockey rink. Didn't know there were so many bikers out that way. I went and bought these new heat shrinks today because they're the ones I have were too thick. These are nice skinny little ones. Hopefully they're going to fit over all these solders. Sometimes if you get too thick of a spot, you can just squish a little bit. Should have used a thicker heat wrap by now. Do it. I'm going to wrap some tape around all this. I might even have some conduit that can go in there. I'll look around. This is that stretchy conduit stuff I bought. And see if I can get it to work. Kind of like a snake. The only thing is the end's free unless you heat it up. Or tape it. I'm going to tape it around the ends like that. Maybe put a little twist tie on it. Okay, here's my battery box. And the voltage regulator rectifier bolts onto the bottom. I just bought an aftermarket one. I think, I might have said in the video last year, but it's like 14, 15 bucks. And just happens that the holes line up. I think this goes out this way. I hope I didn't cut those bolts too short. Let's take the washer off. Oh, I hope I didn't cut them too short. Pissed me off. Fuck. Damn. How did I cut those too short? I gotta find some longer 6mm bolts. Found some. Dumped out my nuts and bolts box on the floor. Try to ground this to the frame if I can. Okay, I'm going to fit the battery box in here. See if I can get all the pieces of the puzzle back together. In the right order. Might have to do it twice, I don't know. Here's the bushings. There's a body ground right there I'm going to put on that battery box. I don't know where that, where the CDI box goes. I'm not sure where that goes. It was easier to solder the wires on here now. Or maybe I can bolt this on. Let's see. This goes like this, I believe. All the old wires are so hard and brittle. Let's pull this out of here. That's how that goes, right like that. Another one there. I think the dash lights are going to work once I get the, come on, get in there. Once I get the regular rectifier hooked up. I believe that ties into the ignition switch. One of the wires ties in to give it load. Okay, so these are the 4 wires here that come off of the regulator rectifier, and these are the 4 wires here that it's all melted that go to the alternator. The red's the hot one. So I'm going to put these connectors on them. And yeah, let me see here. Yeah, that's the main part one there. Yeah, I'm going to put these 4 connectors on them and hook it up. Red to red. This red wire is a heavier gauge than these 3 little alternator wires here. Oh, come on. I'd like to solder these all on, but I'm just going to get it all hooked up right now. See if everything's functional, charging, and I can make more permanent changes later. I just got to get things going here or I won't do nothing. Okay, so this is the trigger one, goes to the ignition. Oh, get in there. Okay, so here is that goes there. These 3 don't matter. I'm just wondering if I should put a little piece of tape around there for now, just to kind of hold those together. Okay, so now, where is the I don't know where this box bolts in. I don't know. Does it go here somewhere? Must go. Maybe it goes up here somewhere. Maybe on the air box? No. Okay, there's one. Go in and out a few times. Okay, I'm just going to hook up the battery wires. Okay, the black with the white tracers goes to ground. Hopefully you can see spark right here. I've got the ignition hot wired together because I've somewhere in between the fuse and that key switch I'm not getting a connection, so I just hot wired the ignition switch. I'm gonna jump to start a relay. If I got spark, I'm ready to go. Good sparks, we got spark. Okay, that's all I need to know. So I've got the ignition wired up. So we've got the gauge lights and everything all on here. I should check the oil before I fire this thing up. And I just got the ignition hot wired like this for now, but you unplug that. Okay, so next video, I'm going to put some gas in this thing and fire it up. Check the oils first, make sure they're good. And disconnect the battery down here. Yeah, somehow I've got power to the ignition switch, and I turn the switch on. I got power to the actually it's intermittent. I get power back to the fuse panel intermittently, so I think I still got a bad switch. But that's it for tonight. I'm all ready to fire it up. Oh yeah, I got the other fuel tank outside, just gotta clean it out. And I'm just gonna jump hot wire it here and see if the engine's gonna bark. That'll be in the next video. That's it for tonight.